You're listening to Seminary Dropout, episode 40. On this episode, we'll talk about the essential reading list, the Praxis conference from this weekend, fantastic time. And finally, we'll interview the band The Brilliance, David Gungor and John Arndt. Let's go. That's right, friends. I've got a great episode ahead for us. I think you'll love it. Let's talk first about the essential reading list. If you'll remember last week, I talked a little bit about it. I opened it up and I wanted us to come up with the most essential reading for those who are following Christ. You know, if we could just select the very most important books in our faith, what would they be? And you guys came out in force and had some great contributions. You voted, you added books, and I want to just talk briefly about the results. So let's do the top 10 because there were, where'd they go? 61 items in total. So there's a lot of books on this list. So I encourage you to go check it out at shaneblackshear.com/essential reading to see what books were on the list, maybe what books you thought should be on the list. Like I said, voting's closed, but you can see what came out of it. Let's just do the top 10. The number 10 book on the list was The Apostolic Fathers. The Apostolic Fathers, number 10. Number 9, The Confessions of St. Augustine. Classic book. That was number 9. Number 8 was Orthodoxy by Chesterton. Most of you have probably heard about Orthodoxy, a really important book. Number 7, Life Together by none other than Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Life Together. No big surprise there. It's been a classic for a long time now. Number 6, Life of the Beloved by Henry Nouwen. Life of the Beloved spent most of its time in the top 1 through 3 position, but obviously got voted out towards the end. It was number 1 for a really long time, but that was Life of the Beloved by Henry Nouwen was number 6. Number 5, Surprised by Hope. I talked about this last time, I think. I love Surprised by Hope. I think it was my top book for last year. But it only came out like 3 years ago. Does it deserve to be on the top 5 of all time? Everybody thought so, apparently. We'll see. Time will tell. In 20 years, will people still say that was that important? They very well could, because N.T. Wright is he is the greatest, probably the greatest theologian of our time. So I wouldn't be surprised. Number 4, Mere Christianity. Obviously a classic, C.S. Lewis. On my drive home this weekend, I downloaded the audiobook of Mere Christianity. I've been listening to it, and obviously it's fantastic. Number 3, The Cost of Discipleship by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Famous book, classic, Cost of Discipleship. No real surprise there. Number 3, The Divine Conspiracy by Dallas Willard. This weekend at the Praxis conference, there were a number of people who mentioned how important the divine conspiracy was in their life and their spiritual life. So just, another classic book, The Divine Conspiracy. Interesting note, those like a lot on this list. Well, let's see. And I don't know exactly these, but I would say that at least, we could find out for sure if we have more time, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of these, at least 6 of these were written in the 1900s. So fairly recent. We're products of our time. It's too bad it's not possible to create a list that's purely objective. We're gonna see this from people in our time period. Number one book, most essential for the Christ follower, On the Incarnation by Saint Athanasius. I tripped over my tongue a little there. Saint Athanasius, On the Incarnation, number 1. I'll be honest, I haven't read it. I haven't read a lot of these books on this list. I'm not as well read as I should be. I'll readily admit that. I think that's kind of part of being a seminary dropout, in the literal sense. Which, by the way, since I mentioned that, people have been calling me the seminary dropout. I get it. Like, I literally am a Seminary dropout. I've made no secret about that. But that's not really, the show isn't like me. It's really a metaphor for this show. So just to get that out there, I should probably say that a few more times. But anyways, so there's the essential reading list. You can check it out again, shaneblackshear.com/essential reading. And I think you'll like it. And I'm thinking I'm going to be working my way down the list. If you are as well, let me know, because I would love to just kind of compare notes as we go and, just talk with you about it. See what you're going through, see what you're gleaning from those readings as well. Okay, so that was the essential reading list. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was the Praxis Conference from this weekend. I had such an amazing time at the Praxis Conference. In fact, it might be one of the best conferences that I've ever been to. It might be the best conference I've ever been to. It was so good. The speakers were just phenomenal. It was a TED Talk format, meaning each speaker got about 15 minutes or so, and it was rapid fire. So one speaker, then another, then another, then another. If that wasn't good enough, just getting to spend time with the people who were there was... That could have been a conference all of its own. Got to meet some people for the first time that were amazing, and got to meet some people face to face that I've known online for a long time. Some people that I've interviewed on Seminary Dropout, and I had not known them away from Skype before this. Got to finally meet Sarah Bessie face to face, and Jonathan Martin and Kurt Willems, and then some people that haven't been on Seminary Dropout but have just been friends of mine online. Israel Hogue, who's the pastor of Sanctuary in Oklahoma City. We've been Twitter friends and Instagram friends, and just a guy I've really grown to love, and got to spend some time with him face to face in real life, IRL, as the kids say. So it was just fantastic. For those of you who don't know or you haven't been to the blog, the Praxis Conference blog, the conference was kind of centered around this idea of people who have come to appreciate is too weak of a word, who have found the importance in liturgy. And so mostly people who did not come from a stream where liturgy was important. Like very many heavily represented were people from the charismatic streams, churches of God, things like that. Baptist, my own background. Chris C. was there from, kind of representing the Baptist stream. But there are also those who came from a more liturgical stream. There, a Catholic priest, I think his name is Quentin Moore, gave one of the talks, and a few more. I think one was Anglican, I believe. And it was amazing, and I was really convicted about how important that was. And these people were coming and saying, it took me a while, but I've realized that Jesus really is present in the Eucharist. It took me a while, but God really moves and speaks to me through written prayers, through the church calendar. And it was just a great time. And so there are going to be some of those talks online, I'm told, at some point. I don't really know anything behind the scenes about Praxis. I just went as someone to absorb what was going on. But praxisconference.com, you can find that out. And there's even been a blog post posted there since it ended, just kind of a reflection. So you should check that out. I'm also going to post my own, just kind of my reflections from the weekend, and I hope to get that out sooner rather than later. And so you can check that out. Also, go to Twitter and just search the hashtag Praxis14 and see some of the tweets that have come after that and then during it as well. And I tweeted a few things, just a few just amazing quotes of wisdom that some of the speakers were saying, and I was kind of tweeting those in real time. So go check that out. Amazing time. Okay, the interview this week is with the Brilliance band. The Brilliance played the background to the liturgy that we experienced this weekend at Praxis. The two founding members, David Gungor and John Arndt, they joined me for an interview this weekend, so it's pretty fresh, and I couldn't wait to get it to you guys to hear it. This is one of my favorite songs of theirs. This is called Breathe.
Breathe, breathe on me now. Open your mouth and speak the word that heals this broken ground. Say what you will. Show us your will as we breathe in the very breath of God. Oh, Spirit of God, here with us now, giving us life again. Breathe on us now, fill us with your love, send us with your power, Spirit of God. Breathe on me now. Open your mouth and speak the word that heals this broken ground. Say what you will. Show us your will as we breathe in the very breath of God. Oh, Spirit of God, here with us now, giving us life again. Breathe on us now, fill us with your love, send us with your power, Spirit of God.
Founding members of the Brilliance, David Gungor and John Arndt, joined me backstage at the Praxis Conference. And by backstage, I mean a room upstairs that was probably used for Sunday school or something. Also, David totally called me out for referring to you all who listen to Seminary Dropout as fans. John Arndt and David Gungor, thanks for joining me. Gungor. Did I say Gungor?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You want to start it over so you can get it?
No.
You like this?
My fans know that I'm so flawed that they won't bat an eye that I said that. So it's
I
fine.
like your fan. Tell me the average fan.
The average fan?
Do they have posters of you type thing?
Fans is a really strong word.
No, I was just imagining
casual listeners.
I was just imagining like my fans, and you're like, I'm a huge fan of Seminary Dropout. They've got like a picture of you and
not even close,
and your beard glory.
Right? No, not even close. So this is usually the point in the show where I would kind of describe what you do. And I've been listening to you for the past couple of days here at this conference we're at. And I love what you do. I don't know how to describe it. So for those who've never heard the Brilliance, how do you describe what you do?
Well, I think it depends on the context. For you, you've been hearing us at a conference in which we've been leading worship as the primary goal, for the most part, unless you're at the house show last night. But usually, if we're in a church scenario, we're leading worship, and we try to do it through a little bit different of a lens. Our instrumentation is sometimes a bit different than the rest of modern worship. Would not always be, but it's a post-rock, yet with using different instrumentation. So we're still using a lot of classic CCM or worship songs, hymns, that type of thing. We write a lot of original music for the vein of the church, but we're using a lot of times different instrumentation that actually kind of goes neoclassical. But the majority of the time we're actually not leading worship. The majority of the time we're playing concerts or shows. And so we play music that's a little history of the band is I am not a classically trained musician. Everyone else in the band is, except for the drummer. So I play bass and I'm a songwriter. Play some guitar. But John Arndt, the other guy in the band, grew up not only in the classical world but also in the jazz world. And I had an idea for a band, and it would be based around, before we kind of went into the everything of the songs, wanted it to be based around a string quartet. And John is a composer. He does more music than just Christian music. In fact, a lot more music. So I'll let him talk a little bit about his past in music and maybe about what he's doing currently, and then what his role is in the Brilliance.
Yeah, John? Well, I mean, we started the Brilliance out of a desire for something more in modern Christian music and modern music that we were seeing written for the church. So the way we started the band was a 2-day recording session of string quartet arrangements that I wrote. And we worked together on building our first album, The Brilliance, which to us it felt to us like it occupied a space that hasn't been occupied so much, or has been underrepresented today. And so in a real short amount of time, we've made, I think, 7 records based off of this idea where we can reach into the past, both with our texts and also with our music. So like using the classical setup and blending it with modern songwriting with the guitar, gives us a unique approach and a new, fresh look at what music for the church can be. There was a time when the best music in the world and the greatest achievements of art, as far as music was concerned, was happening inside of the church. Like think of someone like Bach, who wrote some of the most amazing pieces of music specifically for liturgical purposes. And nowadays, Christian music is it's definitely lost that reputation. And I think that's sad in a lot of ways. It's fun to try to reclaim it in the ways that we can.
And I would also say that it's evolved from a place of, when the first record, the focus was a little more based out of songs that we were singing within our local church context, and then we started writing around the church calendar, and it kind of gave us a form. Cool thing about anything with art and giving yourself this like framework to work from. If we were going to be like a blues band, like my brother Rob just did a blues record like last year called Wilderman, and every song is a blues format, every single song, and yet every song is totally different. But we worked from in this framework of the blues. And when you can give yourself a framework, oftentimes you creatively can be inspired to do something. So I feel like for John as a composer and for me as a writer, it's not this thing where we're like trying to change Christian music. It really is just a thing where it's like, in an artistic way, in the past, sacred music has had a voice artistically, to not just reflect culture, but actually can challenge a lot of it in the ways. So that's all sacred music from, not only Christian sacred music, but from Jewish sacred music. And, I've got to see a lot of beautiful music, and I was in Thailand and heard these monks doing these monk songs, and it was gorgeous. It was like these harmonies that I've never heard before, and I wasn't even sure if it was good, if it was tonal, like what it was, but it opened up my imagination. And I think for us, the framework that we've given ourselves is the Brilliance is specifically a band that works within the context of like the Christian narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And within that Christian narrative, it's given us, with the boundary, kind of a freedom to not write from a Greek personal expression, like, this is how I feel today, or this is the way that I'm doing in life as a songwriter, how do I feel today? We're kind of picking these themes and building off of themes. So it's been wonderful as musicians to kind of have the Brilliance. It's not like, the Brilliance is not David Gungor, it's not John Arndt at all. But it's when somehow we get together and we realize, hey, we're writing these songs. It's not really for us. It's got its own life. It's got its own DNA. And for us, that's been really cool to see that happen.
And that, you know, we're here at this Praxis conference, and so we're talking about, for the listeners, we're talking about a liturgy in our church history and that kind of thing. And it seems like the Brilliance is kind of based within that narrative as well.
It's kind of the main framework for which we use, at least for song lyrics and for our albums. When we write an album, we're not doing, we call them EPs, although we're on a church calendar EP right now, thank you. But our next EP is not really an EP. We're going to work on an Easter symphony piece that like John is going to compose, that I can kind of be, the cool thing within our relationship for this is I can have like a vision of something and I know I can't do it by myself. And John can take something and instead of taking like my vision and be like, am I getting this right? He can write music that not only portrays that, but also a listener can have a totally different experience with that music. So like oftentimes for the Brilliance, we will play at like a Catholic church and then play at a Baptist church, then play at a non-denominational church, play at a Methodist church. And people will be like, I'm so glad you're Catholic, or I'm so glad you're Reformed. I'm so glad you're this.
Yeah.
And we kind of laugh. Like all we're doing is creating art within that context where they're having their own interpretation with the art. Which is like, that's good for us when the art can do that.
Yeah.
If it's so focused on like, it's so easy to be like, oh, so this is what you guys mean. Then it's kind of like a thing where it's like, no, because we don't really know what we mean.
You're kind of like the Rorschach test of bands.
Yes.
People, it says more about the listener than it does about you, what they get from it.
Yeah, and it's I don't even know if it's a thing. You know, music, you always get something, but our goal is not to have some message, which at the end of it, the goal was like, did you get the message?
Right.
The
Which
goal
is
art.
really typical for worship music, which can tend to be kind of derivative and, preachy in that sort of way. And I think that when, like, most people will think of a worship band, first of all, the sound is something very different than what you guys produce. And I think also that end goal is what you're saying is also really different than what a lot of worship bands have strived for in the past.
Well, and what's funny is I would never call us a worship band in the sense of most of the time, we are a band that also can lead worship. And in that, I mean, if we're in a scenario like the Praxis, I don't think throughout this conference, like, we led some brilliant songs during worship, which like can naturally happen, but we also have done hymns and had other people kind of get in, and it's kind of like knowing what you're supposed to do for that thing. So if we're playing somewhere on a Sunday morning, it's not like we're like, hey, it's time to play our music and it's all about we're trying to write music that everyone's going to sing or that everyone's... Now, it's good that if people are connecting to it, the more power to them to sing it and those things. But in a typical worship band sense, we're not that. However, we're like a super, super, super Christian band without being in the sense of, like, yes, we are making Christian music.
Right.
But it's kind of using the art form and that narrative to help form this thing.
Yeah.
Where, like, there will be times where not everyone who's playing the music are Christians. And we find that legitimate. Like, we find that a thing where people can enter this story, see this from it's a little bit different of a framework. Now, once again, if we were that's because a lot of times we're playing concerts or music for people
Sure.
to listen to. If we're playing a thing where it's like on Sunday morning, most of our gigs are not Sunday morning gigs.
Right.
They're concerts.
Right.
For something like this, it's kind of a fun thing where we can blend the things. Now, I will say that John has played at his church at United Methodist that was, not a good band at all, and yet John played music with it. And I played in mega churches, and we've taken gigs and done those types of things where it's like you have to know what the purpose of you doing that music
Right.
is for. Like, I'm kind of rambling, but
Right. No, and I totally get that. I think that for the past couple of weeks, I've just kind of been immersing myself in y'all's music. And I get what you're saying, that you guys do shows and not so much Sunday morning worship. But at the same time, when I'm listening to that, like I can't call the way in which I'm engaging in that anything else but worship. Does that make sense?
yes. And I think if we were going to borrow from like some of the speakers today,
Yeah.
like Michael Redzina had a great talk, I felt like, on secular sacred.
Yeah.
And like the hard thing is, I have had amazing worship experiences with U2, amazing worship experiences at the symphony, much greater worship experiences recently at the symphony than I have had in any Sunday morning like worshipful experience. And yet, it's kind of bullcrap, because at the same time, like for me, my worship experience is not so much through music these days as much as it is a part of it, of like the wonder and awe of life and
Sure.
beauty in those things. But a part of it for us is like, and what I was trying to say is like, we can, when we're in our Sunday morning context, we are writing songs for the church. They're specifically for the church. But they're not always specifically for the church to sing. So when you're having
Sure.
that worship experience, it's not like we're a traditional worship band in the sense of, I'm trying to get you to sing along right now.
Right,
In fact,
right.
a lot of times I'm trying to get you to
Quiet.
listen and just be quiet. Do you know what I mean
Yeah.
by that? That's the
It's-
tension.
no, absolutely. It's more meditative in
Yes.
nature.
Yes.
To me, that's what I experience.
So maybe, and this is like a little far stretch, but I would see us more as a prayer band than I would, or a meditative band than I would a worship band. So all of our lyrics, all of our stuff are usually based off of prayers more than they are based off of like, hey, sing along with me. Now there are certain anthems and certain things that we sang specifically for the church calendar that we have used as prayers in a liturgical or worship context. But most of the time we're not writing songs that we're like, can people sing along with us in this?
Yeah.
Most of the time, not.
Yeah. And to that point, a lot of your, or at least some, is just instrumental.
Yes.
There's a lot, long spans of time. If you're listening to, a Brilliance band CD, there's gonna be a long spans of time with no lyrics at all.
Right.
Which would, you can't sing along to that even if you want
Right.
to.
Right.
John, what was it about when did David come to you and say, "Hey, I've got this idea for this, band based on three-piece orchestra"? Like, how did that come about? And were you like on board from the beginning?
Oh yeah, I was on board from the beginning. We actually, he had the idea for us to do this thing with string quartet, and I had actually never written for string quartet before. He just knew that I could, so it wound up opening a whole world for me of writing strings for all sorts of different people, and it was a really fun experience. But actually, as we started, my thought process was that this should be a David Gungor album. I was going to help him make his David Gungor album, and then the further along we got with it, it just became more and more of a partnership kind of thing.
So you're in Chicago now?
Just moved.
Just moved to Chicago?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why you left Austin, Texas, but you're in
It's too
Chicago
hot.
now.
It's too hot.
Okay, touche.
No, yeah.
It
I
is,
moved
you're
on
right.
June 1st. Got out of there.
You're right.
I'm escaping.
And David, you're here now in Tulsa, right?
I'm in Tulsa for a season, yeah.
Okay. So how do you guys And even before you were here, you guys were not in the same city is what I'm
We
getting at.
have not lived in the same city as a band.
Yeah, so that seems very inconvenient.
Yes and no. I mean, the more inconvenient part is just the hang time. John and I have grown up together. But, I mean, it's such a funny word to say, especially as an adult, but like best friends, you know, when you grow up.
Sure.
My dad and his dad were in a wedding band together back in the 70s. And then my parents started a church, and John's parents were elders at the church, super involved. Both of our parents have 4 children. They both have Robs that they both, boy's name Rob. Yeah.
Gotcha. I put it together.
Yeah. So my little sister was best friends with her little sister. My older brother is very close with his older brother. And so we grew up together, the Gungors and the Arndts. The Gungors moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma from central Wisconsin. The Arndts stayed in Wisconsin in middle school. And then John and I met back up in Michigan after high school, but we would always see each other. Our first band was called the Rockin' Jammers when we were like 7 years old.
Okay.
Bass and piano duo.
You thought about getting a reunion tour of the Rockin' Jammers together?
We, it is a rumor, yeah. And then
We're still looking for the original recording.
yes, the song was called Jubilee, the original recording. And then in college we worked at we both were at this church in West Michigan with my brother Michael. My brother Michael left, and then John and I started another band together that didn't do any kind of Christian or sacred music in that sense. It was just a band that we kind of started in college called the Brilliance and the Flyer. And so when we were putting everything together for the current band, the Brilliance, John kind of alluded to this earlier. At first it was just going to be a David Gungor thing, but like at least 50%, if not more, of the record of everything is always John, because not only do we co-write everything together, but he does all the strings, which is a huge part of our whole thought process. And now it's not so much it's not like, oh, we have to have strings, but it's more how we put music together orchestrating wise. And it's kind of that language that John speaks this certain language that I don't speak. And yet together, because we're not in the same city, how we work it out usually is we'll pick we kind of commission ourselves to do something. And usually my role is I can be inspired to commission something, and then from there, from that idea, we'll work within a context of my role is to try to, as much as possible, be true to the narrative. So if we're talking about the Advent season or the Lenten season, I'll talk to different pastor friends. We have a couple Catholic priests that we talk to, an Anglican priest, and I'll just kind of talk about what are the themes that we're really trying to hit, kind of wrestle through that. Then I'll come to John and say, hey, so we kind of are going to hit these themes, and then we'll both start writing music. John's music are usually based out of song ideas from whatever he has. They're usually a little bit smaller, and mine are usually kind of more hymn-based, in the sense of I'll have an A-B section a lot of times that were like A-B, 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 A-B for a long time of a lot of lyrics. Yeah. So John will be able to look at something and be like, hey, we should cut this, you've already said this, what if we added this section, and all of a sudden we've added another section, we have a song. John will a lot of times have smaller things, beautiful melodies, choruses, whatever it is, a verse idea and chorus idea, and then I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, let's expand this.
Yeah.
So it winds up being a process where we know we have a recording coming up. We go, okay, we're gonna make this recording. Mm-hmm. So we're each in separate places, and we're thinking about it, and as little like inspirations hit or something, I'm always taking these things down, and we send them back and forth to each other. Often we'll show up to the studio with half of the songs not fully written yet.
Really?
And on one sense, it's easy to complain about, being financially limited or not having much time in the studio, which means that you have to make decisions quick and you have to live with them. On the other hand, there's a great freedom in that when we show up to the studio and we have a project in mind and a space that we need to fill. Mm-hmm. When you only have a certain amount of time, there's that gives you that imperative to create now. So we have the materials, we put them together, and many of our songs have been written in that space, in the space of the studio, actually.
Yeah.
As we bring our ideas together.
Do you feel like that? You hear like with among creative people that like when you limit yourself, you would think that would hurt creativity, but really it helps expounds the creativity. Do you feel like that comes into play with that time crunch that you guys are in?
Yeah, I don't always want to be in the time crunch. That being said, when you're forced to make a decision, it's easier to land on something, because you could spend 3 years on record and be agonizing over decisions that wind up being pretty arbitrary, and you may not have improved the quality of your art at all in that time. So it's useful to give yourself the time crunch and say, we have to create, and this is what we made.
Yeah.
We're also trying to right now expand our... We have had success doing it the way we've doing it, in the sense of like, oh, we've made some stuff that like we're glad has its own life. But for future stuff, like our next big project, we're going to take our time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to take our time and do it right, and make sure that it's done in a different way. We're going to try it in a new creative way, which hopefully will give life to something else and evolve in its own way. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're at. It's not like we're like, all right, we have our science, our formula. We're just going to always stick to this.
Sure.
We've done that in the past because we just haven't had. You do with what resources you have, and you make the best out of it.
Yeah.
And so right now, our goal is to, like, for instance, this is kind of silly for some people listening. They're like, of course, you're like, if you're a band, you should have your own Pro Tools or something. Like, we haven't even had Pro Tools for ourselves. So, like, literally, when we go into a studio, we're making, like, a full record in, like, 3 days.
Yeah.
That, like,
crazy.
the songs aren't even, half of them aren't done.
Yeah.
So now John, like, we just purchased Pro Tools for John, which is like revolutionary for our world, even though it's like, well, of course you should have your own little like home studio.
Yeah.
But for us, like, it sounds trite, but we're hoping that this is kind of a new season for us in which new music can be birthed and have its own thing.
So what do you have coming on the pipeline right now?
So we currently are... This is kind of interesting in that it's a lot of work. It was a lot of work for John specifically. But we also commissioned one of our drummers, who's an amazing artist, to for the church. For a lot of this music, we haven't had any resources for people that actually played in church or even at their homes. Mm-hmm. And so we've created a book with all of our music, which is about 50 songs.
Oh, wow.
And we have the old school kind of hymnal version, which is the melody and the piano chords all written out with the lyrics. We have the I shouldn't say traditional, the non-traditional like PDF like chord chart versions.
Right.
And then we have the full orchestration scores of all the string parts. So we're selling this. We're just finishing this book. The artist piece in it was we didn't want to just kind of put out a book. I mean, you can just put out the book and that's great, but we wanted to commission this artist ourselves to do a piece to every one of the songs within the book.
Okay.
So the book itself has somewhat of its own life of like, if you look at one of the songs, for instance, and the image that comes to my mind right now is like I wrote this song a few years ago, actually, from this room. There's a song called Rescue Me, and he did this drawing on it, and it just like, it moves me so much. And it's its own art piece. It's its own thing. And it's funny that it came from a song years ago that like kind of inspired this own thing. But I'm hoping that as people get this book, it's its own thing. So it's a pretty fun project for us, even though it's a lot of work. So we're going to be selling that this summer. We've been working with the liturgists. We just put out a thing called God Our Mother with the liturgists. We're going to be doing another liturgist song. In the fall, at some point, we probably are going to talk about what it looks like releasing a thing, perhaps for a compilation or with a few new songs type thing, for people for singing our songs in their church. But then our next big project, as far as musically goes, is we're writing an Easter piece that John will be composing that's a full 4-movement piece. So
does it help the like current like ways of distribution in that, like, 20 years ago you'd have to get full 10 to 15 songs to put on a CD, to package, to get out there, and now if you want, like, you could come up with like the Easter piece you're talking about and put it online for people to pay $1 or whatever, a couple bucks for that. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I mean, John will probably be able to speak a little bit more to this of like the commercialization of music and that.
I'm just thinking, like, it feels like it frees you up to do those specific projects that you would want to do, where you don't have to, you don't have to get something that people are going to want to listen to like every day of the year. But if it's specialized around Easter, like, you can release something then that's just a few tracks or 4 tracks or whatever, and get it out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Wait, how are you saying we would release it? We would release it...
He's asking if it... tell me if I'm wrong in this. You're asking if it's helpful that because we're doing specific dates in the church calendar, that because of how the internet works now, that we can release smaller things around that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, yeah, the length of an album, like the way that's been established, that's based on technology. It's based on how much you could fit on a record, how much you could fit on a tape, how much you could fit on a CD. Now we don't have that limitation anymore.
Yeah.
So the size of the record doesn't matter. And so for us to think that, we have to make sure that we have at least between 10 to 15 tracks.
Yeah.
That's a form that's growing more and more obsolete.
Right.
It's for us. Yeah. So this thing would probably come in 4 tracks, but we have not made this piece yet. So
right.
It may be there's a possibility that it could be the longest of our albums and only have 4 tracks.
Yeah.
So who knows?
And we have to decide after it's done, and this is one of the things, instead of deciding, and this you can do creation in your own way, but instead of our form for this is not going to be, all right, do we need to have multiple tracks to make this happen? Do we need to have this? We're just going to write the piece, and then whatever needs to happen is going to happen.
It'll dictate that
so
for us.
So we have the vision. I mean, as far as like the vision goes for the piece, like we have this thing that like we know where we're going to go, and yet it's just really like signposts showing where you're going to go. So it'd be like, we know we're headed east.
Yeah.
And we know that eventually once we head east, we're going to hit this town, we're going to hit this town, and end up at the beach.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, this was awesome. This was an awesome journey. The cool thing is like, at least for me, is like, I'm like, okay, we're going to do a West Coast trip. And yet I don't know how to drive a full car. So like, so John this is where I'm saying we work together in that, we're going to record an orchestra. But even when you say like, you're going to record an orchestra, there's so much to that we've never recorded a full orchestra. So a lot of that is learning and processing through like your failures of it and working that out. But we know we're going to do it. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So for those, I'm going to kind of intersperse this interview with some clips of your songs. But for those who have not heard your music before, how do you describe that experience?
Nick Drake,
okay,
meets Arvo Pärt, and they make a record for the church.
Okay, I like it. I always hesitate to do comparisons because I feel like it can be insulting if I'm not careful, and I don't want to do that.
It's always approximations, any words.
Yeah. So some of it sounded like the score from an M. Night Shyamalan movie, like in the very best way.
Sure.
Is that fair?
Okay.
Yeah.
There's even some that was kind of reminiscent of like Ben Folds, a few tracks.
Sure. Love that guy.
And then there's something else that I can't remember. Oh, like a little like David Bazaan kind of.
Yeah.
Sound
I mean, I think
there.
what you're
David
saying
Bazaan.
there is, and this is with any artist, is like John grew up, one of the things in high school that changed his life was the Rock in the Suburbs album. One of the things for me was Pedro the Lion.
Mm-hmm.
For both of us in college, we're huge Sufjan Stevens fans, and for both of us, for John, he has a much wider classical palette than me. However, for myself, I know that my wife is a classical musician, and from John and this, it's kind of like I had my first classical experience from really meeting my wife and kind of diving into that world. And the beautiful thing about on my side is I know with form, when you know the form, you can appreciate its beauty, but you also can sometimes just focus on the form.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to experience, for my wife and my whole wife's side of the family being classical musicians, I've been thrown into a world that has kind of forced me, it's kind of like the immersion of like, if I don't speak French at all, they just throw me in Paris, and then it's like, okay, and I know some French words, and I know how to make my way around Paris now, and I get it, but I'm still not, I would not call myself like I speak French well by any means.
Yeah.
So in the classical sense, it's not like I'm like, oh, I speak such great classical language, but I in a certain way, I kind of know good classical music and certain things just from the people I know and from what I've learned. And so for us, I feel like personally, I am drawn towards classical music that I grew up with kind of through John's playing, from, I know, Chopin and Brahms and certain things that are super melodic. I'm a big melody guy. That's what draws me in. And so John will be able to say some composers I know even more that have influenced us. But even minimalism things from John's playing a lot of guys like Philip Glass,
mm-hmm.
Jan Tiersen, some of those things that if you listen to our music, you're going to... I feel like each record is going to have its own vibe. Lent is a much more Nick Drake vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Advents are all going to be more Sufjan meets Philip Glass and meets some other... there's a lot of Bach influence for John's pieces that he writes from strings. So, it's a big compilation of guys. As far as modern music goes, vocally, I feel like there's a lot of influences from guys like Nick Drake and
mm-hmm.
David Bazaan, and I even grew up. We listened to Coldplay so much that it's like, of course, that's going to come through.
Second nature.
It comes through in it. So
yeah. Well, all that to say what I said, to say it's also very unique, and it's definitely unlike anything that I've heard before, and especially within the Christian world. So, well done.
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Great.
And the hungry child cried out for help. Did you hear the sound? Did your heart break? Does your heart break now?
I'm still really disturbed by my own use of the word fans, but it's out there now, so, just going to be transparent about that. Thanks so much, David and John, for joining me on the show. I had a blast talking to you guys. Remember, I'll have all the links to their albums, their website, everything on the show notes to this show. Let's say that the address is going to be shaneblackshirt.com/the Brilliance. How about that? Also, you can always get there by going to seminarydropout.com and finding the episode that way. Listen, I want to once again end with an earnest plea for you to subscribe in iTunes. The show has been as high as, I think, 52. No, I think it was like 48. It was better than 50, I remember. So about 48, I think it was. It's been ranked that high. Subscriptions are really the engine that drives that. And then after that, after you subscribe, please give us a rating and a review. Obviously, please tell your friends about this show as well. That will keep it front and center. Also, you never know when I'm going to hold another contest and give away a bunch of books or who knows what else based on subscriptions and ratings and reviews and stuff like that. So, get ahead of the game and subscribe in iTunes. I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, I think that's all I have, friends. For those of you who are at Praxis, I had such a great time getting to hang out with you, and I consider you brothers and sisters. For the rest of you, come see me sometime, okay? All right, that's it. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Can I feel it in my soul? Can I see you alone? Can the blind have sight? Have sight when you see all alone? Can you hear people? Can the blind have sight? Have break? Does your heart break? Does your heart break? Does your heart break when the heart breaks? Does your heart break?